Hello, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks and I will probably talk about that in a vlog, so keep an eye out for that. But I did want to round off the year with my resolutions video. And to start it off, I want to go back to my first video that I made at the beginning of the year for my goals for 2021 and let you know of the progress that I've made with that. Okay, so my first goal was spend quality time with family away from technology. And looking at my commentary for that goal, I mentioned that I went to Oregon at the end of January for 2.5 months to spend time with friends and family. And I wanted to use that time away from technology. And well, looking back now, I think I was on my phone a lot or on my iPad. I don't think I spent as much quality time with loved ones as I was really hoping for. There were a lot of days where I went out and about by myself to like do things that I really missed, like going to certain stores or just walking around certain neighborhoods that are really important to me. And I did those things a lot of the time alone. So I spent more alone time than I did with others, I would say. I really don't know if there's a reason to that, but with my dad, we definitely watched some movies together or some TV shows. And I think that's just like one of the things that connects us. That's how we spend time together. That's how we've always spent time together. I connect with my dad best through movies. That's where I get my humor from. And with my mom, I think it was easier to spend quality time away from technology with my mom because she's very active. She loves to go on walks and hikes and be outside, and my dad isn't necessarily like that. So I think in that retrospect, I spent more quality time away from technology with my mom, but we also watched movies as well, of course, as I said in the video that we would. But I did hang out with a couple of friends, but it was hard because of COVID, you know? There's only so much you can do. And, but I did spend some time with friends, which was really, really nice. The second goal that I talked about was focusing on my own needs. And I'm kind of laughing about me talking about that because it's something that I'm still very not a professional on. I mentioned going to therapy, and one of the main points was focusing on my needs because otherwise I get in a headspace that is very negative and self-sabotage like, or imposter syndrome, because I'm pleasing the needs of others. And I think especially in these past couple of weeks, that's been like the hardest thing that I've been working through. I wouldn't even call it working through, I'd just say going through. Because I haven't really done that. I haven't really been focusing on my needs, maybe at the expense of others. It's just been so like hammered into my brain that like the needs of others are way more important than your own. And so I neglect myself to some extent. And I worry a lot. So I think maybe at the beginning of the year, I was able to focus on my needs fairly well. But now that I've gotten back into a regular routine of living and going to work, I think that's something that I need to refocus on. But with that also comes, I think I need more support, maybe finding a new therapist or even talking to a doctor more about those things. So that one's just been sitting there. My third goal was to find a new and sustainable job. Well, since moving to Leipzig, I have had 2 jobs since living here. And the first I ended up quitting because it was not a sustainable or social job. I was working at a real estate company and there was a lot of like social aspects that were just missing for me. Empathy, sympathy for others. But I ended up quitting after like a month and a half and was unemployed again and I found a new job at a company that I've been with since the 1st of October, and it is a company that is a startup. It's a young startup team here in Leipzig, and we do cybersecurity training for employees of other companies to teach them all about cyber attacks or phishing. And I'm the office and management assistant there, which is really cool. It's been a really awesome experience for me working with a young team that's also kind of hip, I guess you could say, where I find the management has very sustainable ideas of how they want to lead their company, and I've really been enjoying working for them. It's probably not as sustainable as I was thinking or hoping for. I think under sustainable, I was mostly picturing working for a company that proactively does things to protect the environment or things that help people directly, maybe in their living situation. So it's not that kind of a thing, but it's still sustainable in the fact that we do try to do as much digitally as we can, and there is a big social aspect in how employees are treated and the way that the team is led, which I think fits that goal perfectly. All right, 4th goal is to read 40 books. I have met that goal technically, but Goodreads would currently, on as I'm filming this, is December 29th. Goodreads would currently tell you otherwise. I am at 38 from 40 books because the last 2 books that I have to read for this year, I have been slacking on, and just because it's been kind of a whirlwind of the last couple of weeks, and I haven't really felt like sitting down to read because I've just needed time to empty my brain through watching Netflix. And that's something that I don't do when I'm usually in the rhythm of reading, but I really needed it. But I am hoping to meet my Goodreads goal by finishing these 2 books. The reason I say I've technically already reached that goal is because there are books that I have read that I haven't really counted on Goodreads. Like, for example, I'm currently reading Narnia, and I have a complete collection of all of the books, but it's in one. And because I started reading, or I marked the collection of books as one, it will ultimately just be counted as one book, even though there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7. So I read 2 of those this year. So technically, I'm already at my 40 mark. My 5th goal was to grow my YouTube channel to 10,000 subscribers, which I think is very sweet because that was like my mentality of 2016 YouTube, where it seemed like it was easier to get views on videos than it is nowadays. I really don't know what to say to that one because I think in the long run, I have probably lost more followers than I have gained subscribers. I was at like 4.78 thousand, now I'm at 4.77 thousand. So we're really only talking about like a handful of subscribers or loss of subscribers. But it has not been that easy. Partially because I haven't been as active on YouTube this year as I was hoping or planning to. I really started getting back into filming around like May, June, August. With only a few months of uploading a couple times a month, you're not going to grow necessarily. I mean, there are those channels that can do that, but nowadays it's kind of harder to get views, and there's this whole new algorithm, so people only see your videos for certain reasons. I don't know how it works, but it's definitely not something that has been easy. I would just love to see me hit 5,000. So there's that. Goal number 6 was to write at least 1 letter every month. I have not written that many letters this year, partially because I didn't get as many letters back this year from pen pals. While I was gone in the US and through moving, I didn't write a lot, and I just haven't really been wanting to get back to a small stack of letters that I did receive. that's where pen pal's at right now. It's typical me, very on brand of neglecting hobbies. Goal number 7 was to discover a love for exercise. I don't know if I will ever discover that love. Probably never. However, I did meet some new goals this past year. I retried jogging this past fall, and I stuck with it for a while, like a good couple of months. But once the time change hit and it was darker all the time and colder, I found it harder to breathe while running. And so I haven't really been jogging this winter. I am hoping in the spring, once it gets a little bit more lighter outside in the evenings again, that I will feel more motivated to go back out, because I do really want to get back into jogging, but I did make it longer than I ever have, so I'm very proud of myself, and I made personal goals. And my final goal was to journal nearly every day. For the first couple of months of the year, I actually did this really well. I almost journaled pretty much every day, with a few missing days here and there. But when I was in the US, there was one point where I lost my routine, and there went journaling for a while. I recently have took journaling back up for a YouTube series that I'm creating next year. Next week, the first video will be out and is all about journaling. And I journaled throughout December, and so I'd say for about 45 months throughout the year, I did journal nearly every day. So that is the wrap up of my goals that I had for this year. And now to get to the goals that I have set for the next year. In my bullet journal setup for 2022 and January, I created a list of goals, of annual goals, and I split them into 5 sections. And relational, spiritual, mental, physical, and financial. And for each of these sections, I have written down 2 goals that I want to try and complete throughout the year. Starting with relational. Living in Leipzig, it's been pretty hard not knowing anyone, and I definitely felt loneliness, which is a very odd feeling when you live in a big city. But one of my goals right now is to ask one new person out to coffee. There have been a couple people that I have gone out to coffee with, some new people, but I want to work up the courage to ask out someone new. Maybe someone from work, or maybe I'll be somewhere else at some event and meet someone new, or even just like in the circles that I have been in recently, just finding the courage to ask one new person out to coffee that I have not been out to coffee with before. The next one is to make intentional date nights with Misha at least once a month. Misha and I spend a lot of time together, especially because we don't have a lot of friends here yet. And I love it. He is my best friend, my other half, but I feel like it has just become routine, that we just live together. And I want to really make a point in spending time together and listening and talking to each other more intentionally, so that we get out of our routine that we have just found at being at home. And it doesn't have to be going out to dinner, it can just be taking a walk or playing a board game at home, whatever it is. I just want to spend more intentional time with Misha. To spiritual. I have put in bits and pieces of information throughout my videos the past couple of months. I've been going through a deconstruction of my past faith, which has been very hard, because that is what I've grown up in and that's all I really know, and it has affected my thinking in a lot of ways. But there are some things that I want to get away from, I guess would be the best way to phrase it. Things that I don't want to participate in anymore. And recently we attended a Lutheran church here in Leipzig, and it was kind of refreshing for me because it was a different service. It was more of a traditional service than what I'm used to, than what I grew up in. I grew up in a very modern Christian culture. And so one of the goals I want to try out this next year is to visit different churches here in Leipzig. Just try things out just for one Sunday or whatever day of the week it is, maybe going to an English service, maybe going to a Catholic service, whatever it is. I just want to try different things out to see what it is I want now. And on that note, my second goal is to redefine and practice prayer and meditation. Those are two things that were heavily defined by Christian culture for me for a long time. Things that I tried practicing a lot, but because I'm kind of up in the air with beliefs right now, but I do want to remain spiritual, I want to try and redefine what that means for me this year and be proactive in that redefining process. I've just kind of been letting it do its thing this past year, but I do feel kind of lost through that because I don't really have answers for myself yet. So I want to try and give myself more clear answers of how I want to live and how I want to live spiritually as well. Now to the subject of mental goals. This year, I wanted to read 40 books. Now I'm going to set myself 50 books, which is going to be a little bit more of a challenge because I am now seeing how difficult it has been just to get to 40. But that was also just because the first half of the year I basically read nothing. So technically, I think if I read like 5 books a month, I should be way over 50 books in the year, because that will definitely give me some like puffer room. It's a German phrase. It'll just give me some room for error, so I think I can do 50. Because I also want to try and focus on my needs more, like I said, one of those things is also just like having a clean space. I would love to create a cleaning schedule and stick to it. Misha and I are both not the type of people who love to keep a clean house. I love the feeling that a clean house gives. I just hate doing it. Even if it's like the smallest thing, like putting the plate into the dishwasher rather than the sink. I really want to get better at that. I really, really do, because I know how good I feel when I do have a clean home. Physical, so this one's probably always going to be the same, but I just want to move every day. Whether that is stretching, jogging, yoga, going for a walk, whatever it is, I just want to move my body somehow. Because I do have a sitting job, I need to move, and I'm getting older, so I definitely need to make that more of a priority. I would also like to cut down on eating out. This past couple of months, we have been trying to eat out less, but it's hard because it's one of the things that Misha and I really enjoy the most is eating out, trying new foods at different restaurants. Misha is a great cook. I can cook if I follow a recipe. I just don't enjoy cooking, but I need to. Also, when we get to the next subject of financial. So Misha and I are going to try and stick to a budget this year. I will have a video coming out about that, but in the meantime, I would love to just save 5,000 euros throughout the year, as even just like as an emergency spending fund. I'm hoping that we can save more, but I want to try and keep it realistic and easy without putting too much pressure on myself or both of us. So I just want to try and save $5,000 without like saving that for vacation or whatever. And the final goal also for financial is to track spending every month. In my bullet journal, I also created a page for spending, and I did this in November, and I want to continue doing this of just writing down, keeping all receipts and writing down all expenses so that I can have a better overview of where our money is going and how much we are actually spending. That is it. Thank you for joining me. I wish you a very, very happy new year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.